Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Equilence Balanced Perspective. The topic for today is understanding the deep state and its role in regime changes. Today we are diving into one of the most intriguing and controversial topics of modern politics, the concept of deep state and its role in regime changes around the world. Whether you are skeptic, a believer, or just curious, this episode is for you. So, let's shed some light on what the deep state really is and explore how it is been linked to regime changes in recent years. Recently, during the winter session of Indian Parliament, we have we have heard many Indian lawmakers or a member of parliament talking of deep state, especially from the ruling government side. So first off, what exactly is the deep state? Now this term, deep state, it refers to a hidden network of unelected individuals. They are within the government. Often these people are from intelligence agencies. They may be or they are from military, and they are also from bureaucracies. Some bureaucrats, strong and powerful bureaucrats, they are also part of those bureaucrats who operate behind the scene and beyond the oversight of the elected official. In other words, we can say the deep state is like it is like an iceberg. It is part of the iceberg below the waterline. So the idea is that this network or the deep state, they manipulates policy and decision making in a way that align with their own agenda. If the deep state is left leaning, so they will manipulate and they will make policies that favors the left. Okay, so this network manipulates policies and decision making that align with its own agenda rather than the democratic will of the people. While some intellectuals or some policymakers dismiss deep state as a conspiracy theory, whereas others argue that there are evidences of such shadowy forces influencing policies and politics both nationally and internationally. But now a bigger question is, okay, deep state exists, but the question is, how does this so-called deep state plays a role in regime change or regime changes? Now let us look into the role of deep state in regime change across the world. Now, you see, regime change can be orchestrated in many ways. It can be done through coup, revolution, or even subtle manipulation of elections and policies. The alleged involvement of deep states come into play when intelligence agencies, powerful elites, or multinational companies take it upon themselves to destabilize a government that they see as unfavorable to their interests. If they see like some government is not favoring them, they try to do a regime change. Here are some recent examples where the claim of deep state interference have surfaced. Now let us look into the Arab uprising, or what we call it, the Arab Spring of 2010 to 2012. Now we all know that the Arab Spring, it started as a grassroots movement for democracy in countries like Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya. But there are beliefs that external forces have exploited this uprising. Intelligence agencies and private interests allegedly played a role in toppling certain regimes and installing leadership more aligned with their geopolitical interests. Like you see in Egypt, Hosni Mubarak was removed, and like at that time there were rumors that U.S. deep state has supported the Muslim Brotherhood in the revolution. Similarly, in Libya, the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi, the dictator, was supported by NATO's intervention, like raising question about how much of the regime change was truly local versus orchestrated by global power. And till today, if you look into the social, economical, and political condition of Libya under Muammar Gaddafi a decade ago or during his rule and today, you can see vast difference. Even after regime change, Libya is a total mess. But under Muammar Gaddafi, the country was doing well, although he was a dictator. Now today we all talk about Ukraine and Russia war, but before the war there was a regime change in Ukraine. Like in 2014, there was a revolution in Ukraine called the Maidan Revolution. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Maidan Revolution in Ukraine. It led to the ousting of pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych. Yeah, so he was pro-Moscow. Viktor Yanukovych is pro-Moscow, so his oppositions, they were pro-EU, or we can say pro-NATO or pro-Western allies. So there, at that time, there is a saying that NATO, European Union, or we can say the deep state played a role in the revolution and the overthrow Viktor Yanukovych. Critics argue that Western intelligence agencies and NGOs supported the protest in 2014, and it paved the way for a regime more favorable to NATO and EU. This in turn escalated tension with Russia, contributing to the ongoing conflict till today. After the regime change, Russia has taken Crimea Island, and all those things started from 2014. But the first thing is, you see, there is the involvement of the deep state in 2014 regime change, and this led to the present Russia-Ukraine war, and where there are many people, like we can see Victoria Nuland, whose names pops up when we talk about Russia-Ukraine crisis. And then other examples were like the 2020 election, when Trump have to consider defeat to Biden, like in 2020 U.S. election. So closer to the U.S., there are claims of deep state influence in U.S., especially surrounding the 2020 election. Well, the 2020 election remains highly polarized. Figures like former President Trump have accused the intelligence agencies, media outlet, and tech giant of working against his administration in favor of an alternative agenda. Now, whether true or not, the phrase deep state became a household term during this time. In 2020 onwards, like everybody says, it is a role of deep state. Okay? So, not only that, now there are there are questions raised about deep state. Like one is like the present uh, Russia-Ukraine war and the role of Victoria Nuland, um, the weapon manufacturer of U.S. Their roles always comes up, like the defense industry of U.S. Then similarly, Donald Lu's name comes up, like when we talk about regime change in Bangladesh recently, 2024. Involvement in Sri Lanka also, like manipulation of election in Pakistan, or using the proxy, like we have seen in Syria now, how proxies are used to overthrow a government. So in all these things, the name of deep states pops up. Now let's look into how does the deep state operate. So there are few common methods of like how the deep state operates. One, the most important one is the media manipulation, like controlling narratives in the media to sway public opinion. If you are an Indian and if you read the Western media, whether it is BBC, whether it is DW from Germany, whether it is The Guardian, whether New York Times, Washington Post, the Times Magazine, Independent, there are so many. None of the media, none of these will have any positive writings about India. Out of, especially because they will like to target Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister of India. And it is a well-known fact. Okay, Modi may have some weakness, some flaws, but at least there might be something that India have done well. At least this media could highlight those things in a fair way. But no, you will never see a fair analysis. And all these people who are writing in these newspapers or this media, especially I mean to say about the print media, or even it can be the digital media or other media. So you'll never see. Always there will be a narrative buildings which goes against India. I'm just giving an example. Similarly, there will be economic pressure, like deep state operates by imposing some kind of economic pressures on countries, like kind of sanctions on financial system, or destabilize the regime, like the recent Russian-Ukraine war, like how they have put economic sanctions against Russia. That is also one way, putting economic pressures on country to change the regime, or to change them, like to pressurize them to change their policies. Yeah. The third way that the deep state adopt to operate is political infiltration. Like in many countries, like if the ruler, the political party, or if the ruler is in power for a long time doing, let's say, good things, and very difficult to remove him from power in an elected or a democratic way, then they support the opposition party, and they infiltrated the opposition parties, or like individuals who align with the deep state's interests. Like there are rumors in India, especially India, like it says that when Congress was in power, the deep state supported the anti-corruption groups like India Against Corruption, headed by Arvind Kejriwal, and so he was a person of deep state. In the later part, in 2024 election, the deep state supported the opposition parties in India to remove Modi from power. Okay, I don't have the evidence, but this kind of rumors always goes on. And there are also saying that how the tech companies also plays important role in creating narrative against Modi, like supporting the like the opposition party. The fourth way of operating is through military and intelligence operation. Like deep state also provide covert support for coup or uprising. Like you can see most of the of course, there are real examples of coup in many countries, but in mostly African countries, we can see a lot of elected government are removed from power by military or rebels. So when these kind of coups are taking place or uprising is there, deep state also support those and interfere. Or sometimes there are also rumors about some leaders being eliminated by unknown forces, and because of it the whole country is in a chaos, or all these things are evident. So but we don't have a proof in the public place, like open space, so we don't know who did it. So all these tactics to work together to create an environment where regime change appear organic, but behind the scene there is a guiding hand steering the outcome. Now let us look more into deep state. Is the deep state real or a myth? Now, this is where things get interesting. Most of the intellectuals, they often dismiss the idea of deep state as a conspiracy theory, and in some cases, it may well be true. But if you look back into the history, it shows us that government and intelligence agencies have certainly intervened in other nations' affairs, whether through the CIA's involvement in Latin America during the Cold War, or the USSR or Russia's meddling in the global election. Even as somebody who knows the Indian politics, and if we look at Indian history after the Indian independence, we can see that there were a lot of involvement of intelligence agencies of the West and even USSR in India's political affair. At times there were also many questions that were raised about the Indian sitting Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri's controversial death outside of India. The question isn't whether such interference happens, or like the deep state interference happens. It is about how much influence unelected individuals have over the democratic processes. And more importantly, how do we as global citizens ensure transparencies and accountability in governance? The role of American deep state in recent years were highlighted quite often, be it the change in government in Sri Lanka, or the change in unexpected change in the election results in Pakistan after the jail term of Imran Khan, or the regime change in Bangladesh, or the recent election in Romania, protest in Georgia for joining the EU, or the Gen Z protests in Kenya, all have some evidence or some link that connect to the American deep state and other power brokers that connect to the US. Now, here is my final thoughts about the deep state and the regime change. The idea of deep state raises critical questions about power, democracy, and who truly governs behind the scene. While some claims may be exaggerated, the impact of covert actions on regime changes around the world is undeniable. At Equilence, we aim to bring balanced perspective to complex topics like this. What do you think? Is the deep state a reality or just a convenient scapegoat for political failures? Let us know your thoughts in the comment below. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful discussion. Until next time, stay informed and stay positive. This is Equilence, Balanced Perspective, signing off.